I have a sense of fulfillment. Believe me. I have a sense of pride. Not just that I helped to create those jobs, but that I led an administration which was true to its word to the people. That we came to office to find employment for people. We created more jobs and left Barbados employment in a better state than any other previous government in the history of this country. I seem to recall that a man said that job number 1, job number 2, job number 3 was going to be the cost of living. But we now know that that cost of living is going through the roof. And tonight, I want to speak to you briefly, but in a very serious way. Barbados is facing its greatest economic crisis in its history. And the crisis that is being faced is a crisis that may lead to the government of Barbados instituting policies not just to change taxes, not just to change public spending, but to change and to diminish the quality of life of the ordinary Barbadians. And I want to repeat that, because this is what this campaign should be about. The government has a major financial crisis. Chris Sinclair brought what was supposed to be a budget to Parliament that has not addressed the crisis. The government spending on ordinary wages, bills and whatever is $500 million more than the government takes in revenue. The government has a $500 million problem on its current account. Chris Sinclair bought a budget that dealt with $150 million of it. As a sensible person, there's $350 million more of adjustment that has to be dealt with. And even as we are speaking from these platforms, Chris Sinclair is meeting with his advisors to discuss how that $350 million gap will have to be dealt with. Now, some of the decisions that will have to be taken will affect your family access to university education. Some of it will affect the sanitation authority, and how often garbage is going to be picked up. Some of it will affect your access to the QEH. There are many things in Barbados that we have become accustomed to, but that are integral to the quality of life that we enjoy, because they come from government spending. And since independence, all governments of Barbados have sought to expand the social program to give Barbadians more and more access to better and better quality of services. A fundamental change, and I'm begging you to listen to me in St. John and in Barbados, a fundamental change is about to come as the government moves to deal with its spending. What needs to be done is that the government of Barbados should be involved in this campaign, and day by day, using CBC, using GIS, to tell you, the ordinary man, what it is that is coming at you when the government has to address its spending by as much as $350 million. What will be touched? Can you be sure that your children can go to university without having to find the tuition fees? I would not have been able to be where I am tonight if my parents had to find the tuition fees to pay for me at the Cahill campus. These are fundamental issues And these are the issues that should be under discussion in this campaign. There has to be no sense that the Barbadian people cannot be taken into the confidence of the government and for us to talk through this. And I have proposed to the government that the matter is so serious that I would be prepared to have the Labour Party serve on a commission to discuss how we manage this in the way to make sure that the poorest people in this country are not victimized and have to suffer because the government has to make financial adjustments. But this is what this campaign is about. The future of Barbados. Putting back Barbados on an even economic keel and making sure that we do not have to use a reduction in our quality of life as an economic solution in this country for the first time since independence. Now, I hear a lot of talk about how things are bad and it's not the government's fault. Barbados is one of the few countries in the world that has remained in recession for 3 years and has not come out of recession. That is a fact. In Guyana, Guyanese are going back home without having to be sent back by Thompson or anybody else, because the Guyanese economy has grown every year and is on the cusp of a major expansion. What has happened to us? Of course, things have been tough in the world, but Barbadians have to agree and accept that a lot of our problems in this country have been inflicted upon us by the Democratic Labour Party. And that the first thing I did when I became a member of the opposition was to accept responsibility for everything that happened when I was leading this country. When will somebody in the Democratic Labour Party begin to accept the fact that they have been in government for 3 years and that things that they have done have helped to bring us to this sorry state? Could you imagine the Barbados Labour Party being in office for 3 years and they saying that what's happening we have no influence over? And let me state what are some of the ways in which the DLP is responsible. They've made major policy mistakes. We warned them in 2008 that with a country going into recession, you should not impose $108 million in taxes. We said that's foolishness. They ignored us. They missed opportunities. Barbados went through this global financial crisis as the only developing country that was regarded by the OECD as a clean jurisdiction. The damn didn't achieve that. We fought for it. I fought the OECD to the death to take us off a blacklist. And at a time when the world was in a financial crisis caused by improper regulation of the financial systems and industry, and where people wanted to go to countries that were known for quality, Barbados was the country to come to. But you saw no effort on the part of the Barbados Labour Party, the Democratic Labour Party, to promote Barbados as the place to do financial business because we were on the clean list. The government had a wrong focus. If you get in a crisis, deal with your core business. So if you're selling shoes, continue to sell shoes, but don't try to start selling stocks. In this crisis, the sector that can help to bring us out fastest is tourism. Other countries have expanded their market with Britain. What is your government doing, St. John? Gone to Brazil like Millie. And has taken a slow boat to China. Now, I don't doubt that in time, if you can get a life from China to Barbados, if China may become a big market, if. But no. And for anybody to tell you that in the midst of this economic crisis, China and Brazil were the solutions to our problems, then they are mad. Next, the government has misused the resources of this country. The Democratic Labour Party has borrowed $2 billion in 2 years. Isn't that they have been spending less than we, or borrowing less? The Democratic Labour Party has been spending more and borrowing more than the Barbados Labour Party has ever done. But what do you have to show for it? And even as they speak to you, the foolishness continues. We are to agree that the Democratic Labour Party must borrow $58 million, not to put in tourism. They can put $6 million to market us, but borrow $58 million to fix the backside of Sherburne. I mean, are we mad? If you had $58 million to spend right now, would you spend only $6 on marketing Barbados tourism and spend $58 to fix Sherburne? Next, the Democratic Party has been playing politics with this economy. And I can talk about that a little bit more. Because if David Thompson had a legacy, his worst legacy was that he put a man called Hartley Henry to run this country. And every decision that was made for the last 2 years, David Thompson, was a political decision. And it was not a decision informed by the input of his cabinet colleagues. I am sorry that Hartley Henry did not have 3 hours to speak at David Thompson's funeral, because he started telling us things that caused your mind to boggle. That he and David Thompson would sit in a study and decide who can serve on boards. No, please. There are things called the laws of Barbados. And the laws of Barbados require that boards must be appointed by ministers. Who made Hartley Henry a minister? And you know, the Democratic Labour Party men would do well to listen. Because many people in the private sector may be fearful of offending the government, because the government may have 2 more years before it go back to the people. But Hartley Henry is doing a lot of things in this country that the Democratic Labour Party can have to defend. And many of the things that he's doing in this country are no different than the things that he was doing in Antigua when he got expelled. And a day of reckoning will come. But a large part of our problem now, and these things have to be said, that our economy was allowed to drift when Thompson got sick. That is true. And that nobody really was effectively in charge. And that this country lost a year of economic opportunity because Hartley Henry was running Barbados. And we are paying a savage price for it. And they've come to St. John to say so. And they've also come to St. John to say that part of this election campaign is whether Hartley Henry will again be allowed to exercise that extraordinary control over Barbados, this time not as a kingmaker, but as the queen maker. And this is what the election is about. And a part of our problem in this country is the philosophy of Frandl Stewart. How can a man supposed to be an intelligent man in 2011 say that the Barbados Labour Party paid too much attention to the economy? And that he is not concerned about the economy, he is concerned about the society. How do you build a strong and serious society unless you are prepared to build a strong economy?